Hi. So we missed yesterday because I had to go out. And once you meet relatives for lunch, lunch literally becomes a evening snacks. I returned home at 5 and the time was gone and I was very tired. So I thought, hey, let's start early today and we will try to finish 4 chapters today, which is way too much because my mouth hurts and then my eyes start burning and then my mouth just won't open as much. Anyway, we are reading Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. Yes, I didn't say Lightning Thief this time. The Sea of Monsters and Percy Jackson, and we have reached to where the ship was. It looked like abandoned in the middle of the night, but then in the morning, it they found out that they are in a trap, and then they heard Luke talking about something, and it is scary, but also points for Hermes because I didn't think he would be coming through. I'm glad he came through, and he is such a sweet god. For a god who is um the god of mischief and thievery and everything else, he definitely is a very sweet person. God, a very sweet God. Once you get to know him, obviously. So let's get started without further ado because 4 chapters is a lot. And starting early doesn't mean that I might have it. That is why the title is untitled as to how many chapters I'm taking today, because if I can finish 4 today, then I can write chapter this, and this. But if I cannot finish this today, then I could just write chapter this and this. Because either I'm going with 2 chapters or 4 chapters. I'm not going 1 or 3 because it would be uneven because there are 20 chapters and 2 a day is allotted. So yeah, it's a mess. Anyway, let's get started. We are on chapter 9. Then we have chapter 10, 11, and 12 to finish. Hopefully this goes well. Chapter 9. I have the worst family reunion ever. I'm not, I don't know, man. Can't be so sure. Annabeth volunteered to go alone since she had the cap of invisibility. But I convinced her it was too dangerous. Either we all went together or nobody went. Nobody, Tyson voted. Please. Oh my god, seriously, like Tyson is such a cute character. I just want to hug him and tell him that, honey, everything will be fine. You are so sweet. Such a baby. But in the end he came along, nervously chewing on his huge fingernails. We stopped at our cabin long enough to gather our stuff. We figured whatever happened, we would not be staying another night aboard the zombie cruise ship, even if they did have $1 million bingo. I made sure Riptide was in my pocket and the vitamins and flask from Hermes were at the top of my bag. I didn't want Tyson to carry everything, but he insisted. And Annabeth told me not to worry about it. Tyson could carry 3 full duffel bags over his shoulder as easily as I could carry a backpack. We sneaked through the corridors, following the ship's "You Are Here" signs towards the Admir- Admirate, Admiralty suite. Annabeth scooted ahead invisibly. We hid whenever someone passed by, but most of the people we saw were just glassy-eyed zombie passengers. As we came up the stairs to deck 13, where the Admiralty suite was supposed to be, Annabeth hissed, "Hide," and shoved us into a supply closet. I heard a couple of guys coming down the hall. "You see that Ethiopian Dracon on the cargo hold?" one of them said. The other laughed. Yeah, it's awesome. Annabeth was still invisible, but she squeezed my arm hard. I got a feeling I should know the second guy's voice. I hear they got two more coming, the familiar voice said. They keep arriving at this rate. Oh man, no contest. The voices faded down the corridor. That was Chris Rodriguez. Annabeth took off her cap and turned visible. You remember from Cabin 11? I sort of recalled Chris from the summer before. He was one of the undetermined campers who got stuck in the Hermes cabin because his Olympian dad or mom never claimed him. Now that I thought about it, I realized I hadn't seen Chris at the camp this summer. What's another half blood doing here? Annabeth shook her head, clearly troubled. We kept going down the corridor. I didn't need maps anymore to know I was getting close to Luke. I sensed something cold and unpleasant, the presence of evil. Percy, look! Annabeth stopped suddenly. She stood in front of a glass wall, looking down into the multi-story canyon that ran through the middle of the ship. At the bottom was the promenade, a mall full of shops. But that's not what had caught Annabeth's attention. A group of monsters had assembled in front of the candy store. A dozen Lestrogonian giants like the ones who attacked me with dodgeballs, two hellhounds, and a few even stranger creatures, humanoid females with twin serpent tails instead of legs. Cystian Dracenia, Annabeth whispered. Dragon women. The monsters made a semicircle around a young guy in Greek armor who was hacking on a straw dummy. A lump formed in my throat when I realized the dummy was wearing an orange Camp Half-Blood t-shirt. As we watched, the guy in armor stabbed the dummy through its belly and ripped upwards. Straw flew everywhere. The monsters cheered and howled. Annabeth stepped away from the window. Her face was ashen. Come on, I told her, trying to sound braver than I felt. The sooner we find Luke, the better. At the end of the hall were double oak doors that looked like they must lead somewhere important. When we were 10 meters away, Tyson stopped. Voices inside. You can hear that far? I asked. Tyson closed his eye like he was concentrating hard. Then his voice changed, becoming a husky approximation of Luke's. The prophecy ourselves. The fools won't know which way to turn. Before I could react, Tyson's voice changed again, becoming deeper and gruffer like the other guy we'd heard talking to Luke outside the cafeteria. You really think the old horseman is gone for good? Tyson laughed Luke's laugh. They can't trust him. Not with the skeletons in his closet. The poisoning of the tree was final straw. Annabeth shivered. Stop that, Tyson. How do you do that? It's creepy. Tyson opened his eyes and looked puzzled. Just listening. Keep going. What else are they saying? Tyson closed his eye again. He hissed in gruff man's voice. Quiet. Then Luke's voice whispering. Are you sure? Yes, Tyson said in a gruff voice. Right outside. Too late. I realized what was happening. Just had time to say run when the doors of the stateroom burst open, and there was Luke, flanked by two hairy giants armed with javelins, their bronze tips aimed right at our chest. Well, if it isn't my favorite cousins. Come right in, Luke said with a crooked smile. The stateroom was beautiful, and it was horrible. The beautiful part, huge windows curved along the backside, looking out over the stern of the ship. Green sea and blue sky stretched all the way to the horizon. A Persian rug covered the floor. Two Plush sofas occupied the middle of the room, with a canopied bed in one corner and a mahogany dining table in the other. The table was loaded with food: pizza boxes, bottles of soda, and a stack of roast beef sandwiches on a silver platter. The horrible part: on a velvet dais at the back of the room lay a 3-meter long golden casket, a, sa- a sarcophagus engraved with ancient Greek scenes of cities in flames and heroes dying grisly deaths. Despite the sunlight streaming through the windows, the casket made the whole room feel cold. "Well," Luke said, spreading his arms proudly, "a little nicer than Cabin 11, huh? He changed since last summer. Instead of Bermuda shorts and a t-shirt, he wore a button-down shirt, khaki trousers, and leather loafers. His sandy hair, which used to be unruly, was now clipped short. He looked like an evil male model, showing off what fashionable college-age villain was wearing to Harvard this year. He still had the scar under his eye, a jagged white line from his battle with the dragon, and propped against the sofa was his magical sword, Backbiter, glinting strangely with its half-steel, half-celestial bronze blade that could kill both mortals and monsters. "Sit," he told us. He waved his hand and 3 dining tables scooted themselves into the center of the room. None of us sat. Luke's large friends were still pointing their javelins at us. They looked like twins, but they weren't human. They stood about 2.5 meters tall for one thing, and only wore blue jeans, probably because their enormous chests were already shag carpeted with thick brown fur. They had claws for fingernails, like feet like paws. Their noses were snout-like, and their teeth were like pointed canines. "Where are my manners?" Luke said smoothly. "These are my assistants, Agrias and Aureus. Perhaps you've heard of them." I said nothing. Despite the javelins pointed at me, it wasn't the bear twins who scared me. I'd imagined meeting Luke again many times since he tried to kill me last summer. I'd picture myself boldly standing up to him, challenging him to a duel. But now that we were face to face, I could prop I could barely stop my hands from shaking. "You don't know Agrias and Aureus' story?" Luke asked. "Their mother. Well, it's sad, really. Aphrodite ordered the young woman to fall in love. She refused and ran to Artemis for help. Artemis let her become one of her maiden huntress, but Aphrodite got her revenge. She bewitched the young woman into falling in love with a bear. Then Artemis found out. She abandoned the girl in disgust. Typical of the gods, wouldn't you say? They fight with one another and poor humans get caught in the middle. The girl's twin sons here, Agrius and Aureus, have no love for Olympus. They are like half-bloods well enough, though for lunch, Agrius growled. His gruff voice was the one I'd heard talking with Luke earlier. "He he he." His brother Aureus laughed, licking his fur-lined lips. He kept laughing like he was having an asthmatic fit until Luke and Agrius both stared at him. "Shut up, you idiot! Go punish yourself," Agrius growled. Aureus whimpered. He trudged over to the corner of the room, slumped onto a stool, and banged his forehead against the dining table, making the silver plates rattle. Luke acted like this was perfectly normal behavior. He made himself comfortable on the sofa and propped his feet up on the coffee table. "Well, Percy, we let you survive another year. I hope you appreciated it. How's your mom? How's school? You poisoned Thalia's tree." Luke sighed. Right, to the point, eh? Okay, sure, I poisoned the tree. So what? How could you? Annabeth sounded so angry, I thought she'd explode. Thalia's, Thalia saved your life, our lives. How could you dishonor her? I didn't dishonor her. The gods dishonored her, Annabeth. If Thalia were alive, she'd be on my side. Liar. If you knew what was coming, you'd understand. I understand you want to destroy the camp. She yelled. You're a monster. Luke shook his head. The gods have blinded you. Can't you imagine a world without them, Annabeth? What good is that ancient history you study? 3,000 years of baggage. The West is rotten to the core. It has to be destroyed. Join me. We can start the world anew. I could use your intelligence, Annabeth, because you have none of your own. His eyes narrowed. I know you, Annabeth. You deserve better than tagging along some hopeless quest to save the camp. Half-Blood Hill was overrun by monsters within the month. The heroes who survive will have no choice but to join us or be hunted to extinction. You really want to be on losing team with company like this? Luke pointed at Tyson. Hey, I said, traveling with a cyclops? Talking about dishonoring Talia's memory. I'm surprised at you, Annabeth. You of all people. Stop it, she shouted. I didn't know what Luke was talking about, but Annabeth buried her head in her hands like she was about to cry. Leave her alone and leave Tyson out of this, I said. Luke laughed. Oh, yeah, I heard your father claimed him. I must have looked surprised because Luke smiled. Yes, Percy, I know all about that. And about your plan to find the fleas. What were those coordinates again? 30, 31, 75, 12. You see, I still have friends at the camp who keep me posted. Spies, you mean? He shrugged. How many insults from your father can you stand, Percy? You think he's grateful to you? You think Poseidon cares for you any more than he cares for this monster? Tyson clenched his fists and made a rumbling sound down his throat. Luke just chuckled. The gods are so using you, Percy. Do you have any idea what's in store for you if you reach your 16th birthday? Has Chiron ever told you the prophecy? I wanted to get in Luke's face and tell him off, but as usual, he knew just how to throw me off balance. 16th birthday. I mean, I knew Chiron had received a prophecy from the oracle many years ago. I knew part of it was about me, but if I reached my 16th birthday, I didn't like the sound of that. I know what I need to know, I managed. Like, who my enemies are. Then you're a fool. Tyson smashed the nearest dining chair to splinters. Percy is not a fool. Besides, before I could stop him, he charged Luke. His fists came around Luke's head, a double overhead blow that would have knocked a hole in titanium. But the bear twins intercepted. They both caught each of Tyson's arms and stopped him cold. They pushed him back and Tyson stumbled. He fell to the carpet so hard the deck shook. Too bad, Cyclops. Looks like my grizzly friends together are more than a match for your strength. Maybe I should let them. Luke, I cut in. Listen to me. Your father sent us. His face turned the color of pepperoni. Don't, don't even mention him. He told us to take this boat. I thought it was just for a ride, but he sent us here to find you. He told me he won't give up on you, no matter how angry you are. Angry? Luke roared. Give up on me? He abandoned me, Percy. I want Olympus destroyed, every throne crushed to rubble. You tell Hermes it's going to happen too. Each time a half-blood joins us, the Olympians grow weaker and we grow stronger. He grows stronger. He pointed to the gold sarcophagus. The box creeped me out, but I was determined not to show it. So, what's so special? Then it hit me. What might be inside sarcophagus? The temperature of the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. Whoa, you don't mean he is reforming, Luke said, little by little. We're calling his life force out of the pit. With every recruit who pledges our cause, another small piece appears. That's disgusting, Annabeth said. Luke sneered at her. Your mother was born from Zeus's split skull, Annabeth. I wouldn't talk. Soon there will be enough of the Titan Lord so that we can make him whole again. We will piece together a new body for him, a work worthy of the forges of Hephaestus. You're insane, Annabeth said. Join us, and you'll be rewarded. We have powerful friends, sponsors rich enough to buy this cruise ship, and much more. Percy, your mother will never have to work again. You can buy her a mansion. You can have power, fame, whatever you want. Annabeth, you can realize your dream of being an architect. You can build a monument to last 1,000 years, a temple of the lords of the next age. Go to Tartarus, she said. Luke sighed. A shame. He picked up something that looked like a TV remote and pressed a red button. Within seconds, the door of the stateroom opened and two uniformed crew members came in armed with nightsticks. They had the same glassy-eyed look as the other mortals I'd seen, but I had a feeling this wouldn't make them any less dangerous in a fight. Ah, good. Security. I'm afraid we have some stowaways, Luke said. Yes, sir, they said dreamily. Luke turned to Orius. It's time to feed the Ethiopian Drakon. Take these fools down and show them how it's done. Orius grinned stupidly. He 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 he. Let me go too, Agrias grumbled. My brother is worthless. That Cyclops is no threat, Luke said. He glanced back at the golden sarcophagus as if something were troubling him. Agrias, stay here. We have important matters to discuss. But, Aureus, don't fail me. Stay in the hold to make sure the Drakon are properly fed. Aureus prodded us with his javelin and herded us out of the stateroom, followed by two human security guards. As I walked down the corridor with Aureus' javelin poking me in the back, I thought about what Luke had said, that the bear twins together were a match for Tyson's strength, but maybe separately. We exited the corridor amidships and walked across an open deck lined with lifeboats. I knew the ship well enough to realize this would be our last look at sunlight. Once we go to the other side, we'd take the elevator down to the hold and that would be it. I looked at Tyson and said, now. Thank the gods, he understood. He turned and smacked Aureus 10 meters backwards into the swimming pool, right into the middle of the zombie tourist family. Ah, The kids yelled in unison. "We are not having a blast in the pool." One of the security guards drew his nightstick, but Annabeth knocked the wind out of him with well-placed kick. Other guard ran for the nearest alarm box. "Stop him!" Annabeth yelled, but it was too late. Just before I banged him on the head with a deck chair, he hit the alarm. Red lights flashed. Sirens wailed. "Lifeboat!" I yelled. We ran for the nearest one. By the time we got the cover off, monsters and more security men were swarming the deck, pushing aside tourists and waiters with trays and tropical drinks. A guy in Greek armor drew his sword and charged, but slipped in a puddle of pina colada. Lystrygonian archers assembled on the deck above us, notching arrows in their enormous bows. "How do you launch this thing?" screamed Annabeth. A hellhound leaped at me, but Tyson slammed it aside with a fire extinguisher. "Get in!" I capped Riptide and slashed the first volley of arrows out of the air. Any second we would be overwhelmed. The lifeboat was hanging over the side of the ship, high above the water. Annabeth and Tyson were having no luck with the release pulley. I jumped in beside them. "Hold on!" and I cut the ropes. A shower of arrows whistled over our heads as we free fell towards the ocean. That was chapter 9. It was very intense, and we got to know a lot about Luke's plan. Shame on you, Luke. I thought we had something special. A friendship. I never trusted Luke. Anyway, we are back at chapter 10. Chapter 10. We hitch a ride with dead Confederates. Before I start reading chapter 10, I think I really need to sip water because I will die if I don't. Okay, we hitch a ride with dead Confederates. Chapter 10. Flask, I screamed as we hurled towards the water. What? Annabeth must have thought I'd lost my mind. She was holding onto the boat straps for dear life, her hair flying straight up like a torch. But Tyson understood. He managed to open my duffel bag and pulled out Hermes' magic flask without losing his grip on it or the boat. Arrows and javelins whistled past us. I grabbed the flask and hoped I was doing the right thing. "Hang on!" "I am hanging on!" Annabeth yelled. "Tighter!" I hooked my feet under the boat's inflatable bench, and as Tyson grabbed Annabeth and me by the backs of our shirts, I gave Flask Cap a quarter turn. Instantly a white sheet of wind jetted out of the flask and propelled us sideways, turning our downward plumber into a 45-degree crash landing. The wind seemed to laugh as it shot from the flask, like it was glad to be free. As we hit the ocean, we bumped once, twice, skipping like a stone. Then we were whizzing along like a speedboat. Salt, pepper, salt spray in our faces, and nothing but sea ahead. I heard a wail of outrage from the ship behind us, but we were already out of the weapon range. The Princess Andromeda faded to the size of a white toy boat in the distance, and then it was gone. As we raced over the sea, Annabeth and I tried to send an Iris message to Cairo. We figured it was important we let somebody know what Luke was doing, and we didn't know who else to trust. The wind from Flask stirred up a nice sea spray and made a rainbow in the sunlight, perfect for an Iris message, but our connection was still poor. when Annabeth threw a gold drachma into the mist, prayed for the rainbow goddess to show us Chiron. His face appeared all right, but there was some kind of weird strobe light flashing in the background and rock music blaring like he was at a dance club. We told him about sneaking away from camp and Luke and with the Princess Andromeda and the golden box for Kronos' remains. But between the noise on his end and rushing wind and water on ours, I'm not sure how much he heard. Percy, you have to watch out for, Chiron yelled. His voice was drowned out by loud shouting behind him. A bunch of voices whooping like Comanche warriors. What? I yelled. Curse my relatives. Chiron ducked as a plate flew over his head and shattered somewhere out of sight. Annabeth, you shouldn't have let Percy leave the camp. But if you do get the fleece. Yeah, baby, somebody behind Chiron yelled. Woohoo! The music got cranked up and subwoofers so loud it made our boat vibrate. Miami. I'll try to keep watch. Our misty screen smashed apart like someone on the other side had thrown a bottle at it, and Chiron was gone. An hour later we spotted land, a long stretch of beach lined with high-rise hotels. The water became crowded with fishing boats and tankers. A Coast Guard cruiser passed on our starboard side, then turned like it wanted a second look. I guess it wasn't every day they see a yellow lifeboat with no engine going 100 knots an hour, manned by 3 kids. That's Virginia Beach, Annabeth said as we approached the shoreline. Oh my God, how did the Princess Andromeda travel so far overnight? That's like 530 nautical miles, I said. She stared at me. How did you know that? I. I'm not sure. Annabeth thought for a moment. Percy, what's our position? 36 degrees 44 minutes north, 76 degrees 2 minutes west, I said immediately. Then I shook my head. Whoa, how did that? How did I know that? Because of your dad, Annabeth guessed. When you're at sea, you have perfect bearings. This is so cool. I wasn't sure about that. I didn't want to be a human GPS unit. But before I could say anything, Tyson tapped my shoulder. Other boat is coming. I looked back. The Coast Guard vessel was definitely on our tail now. Its lights were flashing and it was gaining speed. We can't let them catch us. They'll ask too many questions. Keep going into Cheapsake Bay. I know a place we can hide, Annabeth said. I didn't ask what she meant or how she knew the area so well. I risked loosening the flask cap a little more, and a fresh burst of wind sent us rocketing around the northern tip of Virginia Beach into Cheapsake Bay. The Coast Guard boat fell further and further behind. We didn't slow down until the shores of the bay narrowed on the other side. I realized we'd entered the mouth of a river. I could feel the change from salt air to fresh water. Suddenly I was tired and frazzled like I was coming down off a sugar high. I didn't know where I was anymore or which way to steer the boat. It was a good thing Annabeth was directing me. There, past that sandbar. We weavered, we veered into a swampy area choked with marsh grass. I beached the lifeboat at the foot of a giant cypress. Vine-covered trees loomed above us. Insects chirped in the woods. The air was muggy and hot, and steam curled off the river. Basically, it wasn't Manhattan, and I didn't like it. Come on, it's just down the bank, Annabeth said. What is? I asked. Just follow. She grabbed a duffel bag. And we'd better cover the boat. We don't want to draw attention. After burying the lifeboat with branches, Tyson and I followed Annabeth along the shore, our feet sinking in red mud. A snake slithered past my shoe and disappeared into the grass. Not a good place, Tyson said. He spotted the mosquitoes that were forming a buffet queue on his arms. After a few minutes, Annabeth said, "Here." All I saw was a patch of brambles. Then Annabeth moved aside a woven circle of branches like a door, and I realized I was looking into a camouflaged shelter. The inside was big enough for three, even with Tyson being the third. The walls were woven from plant material like a Native American hut, but they looked pretty waterproof. Stacked in the corner was everything you could want for a campout: sleeping bags, blankets, an ice chest, and a kerosene lamp. There were demigods' provisions too: bronze javelin tips, a quiver full of arrows, an extra sword, and a box of ambrosia. The place smelled musty, like it has been vacant for a long time. A half-blood hideout. I looked at Annabeth in awe. "You made this place?" "Thalia and I. And Luke," she said quietly. "That shouldn't have bothered me. I mean, I knew Thalia and Luke had taken care of Annabeth when she was little. I knew the three of them had been runaways together, hiding from monsters, surviving on their own before Grover found them and tried to get them to Half Blood Hill. But whenever Annabeth talked about the time she spent with them, I kind of felt, I don't know, uncomfortable. No, that's not the word. The word was jealous. "So," I said, "you don't think Luke will look for us here?" She shook her head. "We made a dozen safe houses like this. I doubt Luke even remembers where they are, or cares." She threw herself on the blankets and started going through the duffel bag. Body language made it pretty clear she didn't want to talk. Um, "Tyson, would you mind scouting around outside? Like, look for a wilderness convenience store or something?" "Convenience store?" "Yeah, for snacks, powdered donuts or something. Just don't go too far." "Powdered donuts?" Tyson said earnestly. "I will look for powdered donuts in the wilderness." He headed outside and started calling, "Here, donuts." Once he was gone, I sat down across from Annabeth. "Hey, I'm sorry about, seeing Luke. It's not your fault." She unsheathed her knife and started cleaning the blade with a rag. "He let us go too easily," I said. I hoped I'd been imagining it, but Annabeth nodded. "I was thinking the same thing. What we overheard him say about a gamble. They'll take the bait. I think he was talking about us. The fleece is the bait, or Grover." She studied the edge of the knife. "I don't know, Percy. Maybe he wants the fleece for himself. Maybe he's hoping we'll do the hard work and he can steal it from us. I just can't believe he would poison the tree." What did he mean? That Thalia would have been on his side? "He's wrong." "You don't sound sure." Annabeth glared at me, and I started to wish I hadn't asked her about this while she was holding a knife. "Percy, you remind me of most Thalia. You guys are so much alike, it's scary. I mean, either you would have been best friends or you would have strangled each other. Let's go with best friends." Thalia got angry with her dad sometimes. So, so do you. Would you turn against Olympus because of that?" I stared at the quiver of arrows in the corner. "No." "Okay then. Neither would she. Luke's wrong." Annabeth stuck her knife blade into the dirt. I watched it as I wanted to ask her about the prophecy Luke had mentioned and what it had to do with my 16th birthday, but I figured she wouldn't tell me. Chiron had made it pretty clear that I wasn't allowed to hear it until the gods decided otherwise. So, what did Luke mean about Cyclops? He said, "You of all people." I know what he said. He was talking about the real reason Thalia died. I waited, not sure what to say. Annabeth drew a shaky breath. You can never trust a Cyclops, Percy. 6 years ago, on the night Grover was leading us to the Half-Blood Hill, she was interrupted when the door of the hut creaked open and Tyson crawled in. "Powdered doughnuts," he said proudly, holding up a pastry box. Annabeth stared at him. "Where did you get that? We're in the middle of a wilderness." "There's nothing around for 15 meters," Tyson said. "Monster Donut Shop, just over the hill." "This is bad," Annabeth muttered. We were crouching behind a tree, staring at the donut shop in the middle of the woods. It looked brand new with brightly lit windows, a parking area and a light, and a little road leading off into the forest. But there was nothing else around, and no cars hogged in the lot. You could see one employee reading a magazine behind the cash register. That was it. On the store's awning, in huge black letters that even I could read, it said Monster Donut. A cartoon ogre was taking a bite out of the O in the monster. The place smelled good, like fresh baked chocolate donuts. "This shouldn't be here. It's wrong." "What? It's a donut shop." "Shh." Why are we whispering? Tyson went in and bought a dozen. Nothing happened to him. He's a monster. Oh, come on, Annabeth. Monster donut doesn't mean monsters. It's a chain. We've got them in New York. A chain. And you don't think it's strange that one appeared immediately after you told Tyson to get donuts? Right here in the middle of the woods? I thought about it. It did seem a little weird, but I mean, donut shops weren't real high on my list of sinister forces. "It could be a nest," Annabeth explained. Tyson whimpered. I doubt he understood what Annabeth was saying any better than I did, but her tone was making him nervous. He'd plowed through a half-dozen doughnuts from his box and was getting powdered sugar all over his face. A nest for what? Haven't you ever wondered how franchise stores pop up so fast? One day there's nothing, and then the next day, boom, there's a new burger place or a coffee shop or whatever. First a single store, then two, then four. Exact replicas spreading across the country. Um, no, never thought about it. Percy, if the chains multiply so fast because all their locations are magically linked to the life force of the monster. Some children of Hermes figured out how to do it back in 1950s. They breed. She froze. What? They breed what? No. Sudden moves. She said like her life depended on it. Very slowly, turn around. Then I heard it, a scraping noise, like something large dragging its belly through the leaves. I turned and saw a rhino-sized thing moving through the shadows of the trees. It was hissing, its front half writhing in all different directions. I couldn't understand what I was seeing at first. Then I realized the thing had multiple necks. Then I At least seven, each topped with a hissing reptilian head. Its skin was leather, and under each neck it wore a plastic bib that read, "I'm a Monster Donut Kid." I took out my ballpoint pen, but Annabeth locked eyes with me, a silent warning. Not yet. I understood. A lot of monsters have terrible eyesight. It was probably Hydra. It was possible the Hydra might pass us by, but if I uncapped my sword now, the bronze glow would certainly get its attention. We waited. The Hydra was only a meter or so away. It seemed to be sniffing the ground and the trees like it was hunting for something. Then I noticed that two of the heads were ripping apart a small yellow canvas, one of our duffel bags. The thing had already been to our campsite. It was following our scent. My heart pounded. I'd been stuffed Hydra head. I've seen a stuffed Hydra head trophy at camp before, but that did nothing to prepare me for the real thing. Each head was diamond shaped, like a rattlesnake's, but the mouths were lined and jagged rows of shark like teeth. Tyson was trembling. He stepped back and accidentally snapped a twig. Immediately, all 7 heads turned towards us and hissed. Scatter! Annabeth yelled. She dived to the right. I rolled to the left. One of the Hydra heads spat an arc of green liquid that shot past my shoulder and splashed against the elm. The trunk smoked and began to disintegrate. The whole tree toppled straight towards Tyson, who still hadn't moved. Petrified by the monster that was now right in front of him. Tyson! I tackled him with all my might, knocking him aside just as the hydra lunged and the tree crashed on top of the two of its head. The hydra stumbled backwards, yanking its heads free and wailing in outrage at the fallen tree. All 7 heads shot acid, and Elm melted into a steaming pool of muck. "Move," I said. I told Tyson. I ran to one side and kept riptide, hoping to draw Monster's attention. It worked. The sight of celestial bronze is hateful to most monsters. As soon as my glowing sword appeared, the hydra whipped towards it with all its heads, hissing and baring its teeth. The good news, Tyson was momentarily out of danger. The bad news, I was about to be melted into a puddle of goo. One of the heads snapped at me experimentally. Without thinking, I swung my sword. "No!" Annabeth yelled. Too late. I sliced a hydra's head off clean. It rolled away into grass, leaving a trail of stump, which immediately stopped bleeding and began to swell like a balloon. In a matter of seconds, the wounded neck split into 2 necks, each of which grew full-size head. Now I was looking at an 8-headed hydra. "Percy, you just opened another monster donut shop somewhere," Annabeth scolded. I dodged a spray of acid. "I was about to die and you're worried about that? How do we kill it? We have to we have to have fire," Annabeth said. As soon as she said that, I remembered the story. The hydra's head would only stop multiplying if we burnt the stumps before they regrew. That's what Heracles had done. Anyway, but we had no fire. I backed up towards the river. The hydra followed. Annabeth moved in on my left and tried to distract one of the heads, padding its teeth with her knife, but another head swung sideways like a club and knocked her into the muck. "No hitting my friends!" Tyson charged in, putting himself between Hydra and Annabeth. As Annabeth got to her feet, Tyson started smashing monster heads with his fists so fast it reminded me of the whack-a-mole game at the arcade. But even Tyson couldn't fend off the Hydra forever. We kept inching backwards, dodging acid splashes and deflecting snapping heads without cutting them off. But I knew we were only postponing our deaths. Eventually, we would make a mistake and the thing would kill us. Then I heard a strange sound, a chug 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 that at first thought I thought was my heartbeat. It was so powerful it made the riverbank shake. What was that noise? "What's that noise?" Annabeth shouted, keeping her eyes on Hydra. "Steam engine," Tyson said. "What?" I ducked as the hydra spat acid over my head. Then from the river behind us, a familiar voice, female voice, shouted, "Three people! Prepare the 32-pounder." I didn't dare look away from Hydra, but if that was who I thought it was behind us, I figured now had enemies in two fronts. The gravely male voice said, "They're too close, my lady." "Damn the heroes," the girl said. The girl said, "Full steam ahead." "Aye, my lady." "Fire at will, Captain." Annabeth understood what was happening a split second before I did. She yelled, "Hit the dirt!" and we dived for the ground as the earth's shattering boom echoed the river. There was a flash of light, a column of smoke, and the Hydra exploded right in front of us, showering us with nasty green slime that vaporized as soon as it hit, the way monster guts tend to do. "Gross!" screamed Annabeth. "Steamship!" yelled Tyson. I stood, coughing from a cloud of gunpowder smoke that was rolling across the bank. Chugging towards us down the river was the strangest ship I had ever seen. It rode low in the water like a submarine, its deck plated with iron. In the middle was a trapezoid-shaped casemate with slats on each side of cannons. A flag waved from top, a wild boar with spear on blood-red field, lining the deck with zombies in grey uniforms, dead soldiers with shimmering faces that only partially covered their skulls, like ghouls. I'd seen the underworld gardening Hades places. The ship was ironclad, a Civil War battle cruiser. I could just ask I could just make out name along the prow in moss-covered letters, CSS Birmingham, and standing next to the smoking cannon that had almost killed us, wearing full Greek battle armor, was Clarice. "Losers," she sneered, "but I suppose I have to rescue you. Come aboard." Maybe Clarice is not so bad after all. Anyway, I am. Should I start reading chapter 11 or not? It's a lot to read, so I'm not going to. We're just settling for chapter 9 and 10. I will die if I had to read two more chapters. Seriously. Anyway, this was fun to do. I hope let's meet again tomorrow. It's going to be a fun time, seriously. So let's meet tomorrow. We will be doing chapter 11 and 12, and hope we finish it soon. Bye.